boots on the ground, and whose boots are they going to be?
Well, they say Turkey is thinking about has voted that they'll put boots in the ground, but they don't want to put their boots on the ground against ISIS. They're interested in getting rid of the government in Syria.
Well, Turkey was waiting for a while because ISIS was holding 60 of their diplomats as hostage, and then they let them go. So, I mean, I could understand the Turkish government worrying about the safety of their diplomats, but, ISIS doesn't care who they behead, as long as they're Westerners, or if they really want to scare Muslims, they'll behead a Muslim.
Well, they beheaded more Muslims than Westerners.
Oh, definitely. That goes without saying.
So.
I mean, they beheaded, Iraqis in the past, Syrians, I believe, Yazidis that were up in the mountains. I mean, but the thing is, those beheadings did not get the press that the two Americans and the two British people did, and the French person did, because they are Western, and for some reason they felt it would go over a lot stronger.
Well, they were basically thumbing their nose against the countries.
Well, they keep saying, to Obama, we're coming for you, we're coming after you. The unfortunate thing is, I know quite a few Republicans in Congress who wouldn't exactly stand in the way,
Well, it's a very the country is really split apart right now, and unfortunately, neither does the Congress nor Obama is going to give in, so things are not going to change in the next 2 years.
No, they'll only get worse, because if the Republicans take over the Senate, for sure nothing is going to get done.
Well, I'm sure they're not going to. It doesn't look like they'll take over the Senate, from what I'm reading. But who knows? But either way, it's not going to be. The next 2 years are going to be pretty much lame duck years. Even though it felt like the last 2 years were also lame duck years.
It's true. There was more that was accomplished in the first term than in this term.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I blame it on Obama as much as the Republicans. I blame the Democrats also. I blame everybody. Nobody seems to be working together.
I don't know if you watched Bill Maher on Friday, but I DVR'd it. And I watched it today, and he had Elizabeth Warren on, and we know how Elizabeth Warren wants to crack down on Wall Street and the banks. And she said, in a 5-year period, from 2007 to 2012, that's roughly a period of, if a young person is admitted to college in 2005 and they graduate by 2012, which is only 5 years, after all expenses, the government has made $66 billion in interest on college loans. Unless you come from a family where you can your mom or dad can write out a check and pay for tuition in full for the year, and you are taking out loans. And she said, where is that money going? That money is going to keep corporate loopholes in the tax laws open, so that corporations and the 1% get their tax write-offs. And who's paying for it? The middle class and the college students. She said by rights, the government should not make a single dime on college loans. That after the Depression, when loans were given out, there was absolutely no stipulation as far as interest was concerned. The loans were given out and they had to be paid back, but there was no interest at all. And now the government is making money and they're still crying. You know, Wall Street, people who have money to invest in Wall Street have never done better. You yourself even said you have a cousin who said that.
Yeah, they're doing well. Nobody's crying about that.
Yeah, the average person is, because, you know, we could be happy that unemployment rates are down below 6 for the first time in a long time. But that doesn't, you know, as Republicans like to point out, and I have to honestly agree, that doesn't take into account people who gave up looking for jobs because they couldn't find anything, or they're working at a part-time job, working 2 part-time jobs that don't even equal a full-time salary because they've already exhausted their unemployment benefits. You know, so what are they to do?
And also, you know, employers don't want to have full-time employers because of Obamacare. That has eliminated a lot of jobs.
Well,
I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah, but then you have governors from states who will do commercials and tell you that Obamacare has stimulated their state and created jobs. Okay? The only people I hear crying about Obamacare are health professionals for the most part, because of all the bells and whistles that have to be blown and filled out before they can get reimbursed, insurance companies, and people who, like my friend, keep pointing to undocumented workers who could come into a hospital and get everything paid for, and we foot the bill. Because I know he's always telling me that over coffee. Okay? He's saying that, God forbid, you should get an illness like cancer or something where you need drugs, and to maintain the maintenance for the drugs, the payment for the drugs, his cancer drugs cost him, you know, at a reduced rate, $5,000 a month. Okay? If somebody was an undocumented worker and came in and went to Nassau County Medical Center, he'd be treated for nothing. He'd get his drugs for nothing.
Well, is he paying the $5,000 a month?
My friend does.
He must have a lot of money to be able to pay it.
But his complaint is that somebody who's worked their whole life, and you know this, you know, somebody who's worked their whole life is told that it's going to cost you $3,000 to $5,000 a month to get your medication, but somebody who's undocumented could walk into a hospital and the hospitals have to treat them, and who do they send the bill to? They don't pay.
Well, if you don't have the money, even if you are documented, if you're a citizen and you have no money, you can still go to the hospital and get treated. It's
not for nothing, though.
Not if you're...
Because my friend said that there are people who are going for treatments who are in much worse shape than he is financially, and all the hospital is doing is working with them on payments. No one's saying, okay, you're getting this for nothing. They have to somehow figure out a way to pay the bill.
Well, what happens with illegal immigrants? They're supposed to pay it also.
No, what he's saying is they don't.
Well, a lot of people that have the disease don't pay it neither. It's not just illegal immigrants. A lot of poor people don't pay their bills. They use the hospitals as their family doctors.
That's the reason why Obamacare was set up originally, to free up the emergency rooms so that people don't go to the local emergency room every time they get a cold and they need a prescription or they need drugs.
Well, doesn't seem to have worked too well yet. Maybe it'll get better.
You know, it's only been in existence a couple of years. You know, I think if people in Congress spent as much time trying to tweak it and perfect it as they do trying to vote it down, it could be made into something that's viable and successful.
We already had a viable and successful plan. It's called Medicare. All we had to tweak that and not get involved in this
They
whole
don't want
new
single
bureaucracy.
payer. Medicare is single payer. You have the government, you have government insurance that pays up to 80%, and you get a secondary carrier.
Which you pay for.
Which you pay for, right.
Yeah.
That
And depending on your... And you could change it depending on your salary or depending on... certain circumstances, you could change it around a little bit.
You see, but the thing is, Medicare works for the retired who have reached the age of 66. But what Congress voted down was single payer for everybody else. In other words, if you're not 66, suppose you're 35.
But what happened was the whole system got screwed up. Now people who are working and making a low salary get Obamacare for free or close to a very low. But the
Right.
Medicare people are paying 4 times as much, and they have no income at all coming in. There is no rhyme or reason.
Well,
Obamacare could cost some people who are making
I know
under... If somebody's making under $21,000 a year, Obamacare is basically free in New York.
Well,
For somebody that's making $21,000 on Social Security...
they're also getting Medicaid. If they're a family
No,
of...
no. I'm talking about one person by himself. If you're making $21,000 on Obamacare, you're most likely not going to pay almost anything.
And you're right, and you'll also be getting Medicaid at the same time.
No, you're not.
You're qualifying for
You
it.
don't qualify for Medicaid.
Why not?
You have to make less, actually, for Medicaid. But if you're making $21,000 on when you're on Medicaid and you want an equivalent plan that's as good as the one that Obamacare is free, it's going to cost you $300 to $400 a month.
Which nobody really has making that kind of money.
So it makes no sense. Why should the old pay more than somebody who's young? Make them the same, at least.
Well, speaking as an old person right now, I agree with you on that. Kill it. Go ahead. Kill it.
No, I don't want it. There is no equality.
Yes, you do. I saw you look at it.
There's no equality in these medical plans, and that's the problem.
Listen,
And I spoke to some doctors, and they said they would rather, if it becomes more of a single payment type of deal, and where they all just get hired and not have their own practices, and they'd be happier.
like they have in England or Canada, socialized medicine. Doctors are on a salary. A doctor is on a salary. He makes X number of dollars, whether he treats one person or he works in a hospital and he treats 100 people.
We have, I have Long Island Jewish set up their own health insurance. And what they did prior to this, they bought out a lot of doctors' offices and hired the doctors, and they get paid by the hospital.
You know, you're right. I just heard that because my wife needed stitches, and we went to our plastics person, okay, and he shares an office, or he shared an office space with another doctor or two who were bought out by either North Shore or LIJ,
Yep.
okay, and a different doctor from the hospital puts in time in that office, on certain days. So it's almost like HIP. You don't know who you're going to get or who's going to be there, but it's part of Long Island Jewish Hospital.
Well, I know my doctor. I know I'm going to see my doctor, but he's part of LIJ. If you have other insurances, he accepts other insurances.
He's still
besides
maintaining his own practice?
Hmm?
He still maintains his own practice. They haven't bought him out, in other
They
words.
did, of course they bought him out. But he's still...
He's allowed to stay in his office, is that it?
Yeah, of course, that's the whole idea. Is now he's a family physician who people have known, And when you go in there's absolutely no difference except they renovated the office a little bit, made it a little nicer.
He doesn't have to pay rent anymore.
He doesn't do anything. He gets a salary. He works the same hours. Nothing has changed for him, except now he makes a salary.